Good evening, everyone. I am David Nelson. It is my pleasure and privilege to be the president of Catawba College, this great institution, and it's my pleasure to give you greetings at this event. And I'll just say from the outside, it says on the cover that we proudly induct Jim, Todd, Michael, Gerard, Brian, Jan, Ann, and Devonte, and we are proud of all of you, and we're so glad that you could be here for this evening. We're here to honor you. So before I introduce the host of our evening, I just was asked to give a few highlights of what's happening on campus. There are a lot of things happening on campus. I won't tell you about all of them, but a few that are worth you knowing. We're having a great semester. Apart from COVID and all that, we're doing really, really well. We've got a wonderful group of first-year students. I think it's worth noting that among all the great athletes and all of that we have an incoming class with one of the highest GPAs in the history of Catawba College. We're really proud of that and proud of those students. All our students from over 32 states and 19 countries. When you're on campus, and I hope you'll come often, you'll see there have been renovations to Shuford Stadium. Some of you have been there for football games. You've seen the new turf. I should also note that Kettner Hall was reopened last year. If you haven't been in to see that, you should see it. It's fully renovated. Shuford Science Building just across from us, completely renovated with all new laboratories for the students in those programs. The Newman Park project is underway, phase 1, putting new turf and dugouts there. We look forward to playing a season there, and I hope you'll come see games. And then in December, we will close up the Center for the Environment right next door, that grand building, and redo all the infrastructure over the spring semester and reopen that next fall. So lots of things happening on that front. I think it's worth noting that for the 6th year running, Catawba College was rated by U.S. News and World Report as one of the 10 best colleges in the South. We're really proud of that, and if you look into that data, you'll see that we rank number 5 for best undergraduate teaching institution. We rank number 5 for most innovative campus, and number 12 on social mobility. We really care about that. That means students, when they come in, and by the time they finish, their prospects and opportunity for their futures are far better than when they started, and we're really, really proud about that. A stat that I love is every year, a year out after students graduate, we check to see what they're doing. And we do really well. We're in the high 90s. But this year, the class of 2020, they graduated amidst really difficult circumstances. That data came in recently. 99.1% of the graduates of the class of 2020 are either employed or in graduate school at this time. And that is an outstanding accomplishment. You may have seen this in the newspaper or in the Charlotte news stations, but some really good news for the future of the institution. Over the summer, thanks to 2 gifts from some very generous supporters of this institution, you may have seen the opening article that said that 75% of the college's debt was paid off. The news you may not have heard yet is subsequent to that, we received another gift, and 100% of the debt of Catawba College is gone. We have no debt, so that is cause for celebration. That, along with the fact that we had the greatest fundraising year we've ever had during a pandemic. We had no idea what would happen, but we had a goal of raising about $17 million. We closed the books on the last fiscal year having raised $44 million to support this institution. So yeah, once again, a real testament both to the generosity of our supporters and a real testament to the quality of our faculty, our coaches, our staff, and especially our students. So we're proud of all those things. I hope that what you hear in that is that things are going well at Catawba College. And our athletics teams, by the way, check the numbers. They're doing really, really well this semester, so we're really proud of them as well. So our host for this evening is Tripp Durham. And I got to see Tripp do something like this at our SAC Conference Hall of Fame induction, and Jeff had the good sense to say, we need to do that here at Catawba, so that's exactly what we're doing. You see a great idea, just copy it, and that's exactly what we're doing. Many of you know of Tripp, but just a note, 30-plus years in sports administration, working in minor league baseball and in athletics, and now as a consultant, working with organizations to do things like increase revenue, to develop their brand, and to create strong fan affinity. You may well know him if you go to a Duke event, whether that's men's or women's basketball or football, as the public address announcer. And so the voice may sound familiar. Tripp, we're really glad that you're here to help us this evening. Congratulations again to our inductees. And Tripp, we're turning it over to you. Welcome, Tripp Durham.
That introduction I appreciate. And before I forget, do you mind all standing real quick, please? My wife said there's no way you'll get them to do it, so thank you very much. She's visiting family tonight. She wishes she could be here. She had a great time with us in Greenville for the SAC a couple of months ago. So, David, thank you very much for the intros. Folks, this is going to be a lot of fun tonight. We have a great program in store. Jeff has been amazing to pull this together, as has Pam Barber and Jarissa Clifton. They've done a great job in organizing their patience through something like this. It is that of Jobe, so we thank them for all that they have done. Also, thanks to the Catawba Chiefs Club, 45 years, holy cats. 5 years in a row now, the Chiefs Club has sustained membership over 500, which is a brilliant number to help complement some of the stats that David was giving just a short time ago. And all of those members help support the mission of what happens here with Catawba Athletics, which is just absolutely amazing. Jan Johnson Morgan and Gerard Gregory, welcome back to you guys. You were just here like last weekend. The 30th celebration for women's soccer, and then the celebration for the 90 and 91 Catawba Men's Soccer Championship team celebrations. So we'll just set up a cot for you guys in the back, and we'll see you again here next weekend. Michael Cabana here with us as well. This is his second Hall of Fame induction in 24 hours. So that's an amazing string, and I don't know that anybody else in this room can ever tout that. So it will be fun to have a little bit of conversation with Michael here in a bit. Salisbury High School was very nice to make sure that Brian Hinson didn't have any conflicts tonight. They moved their game to last night, and it's a game in which they won. So that's 14 straight wins for Coach Hinson in the Salisbury High School football team. So there you go. Michael, I don't know how that makes you feel. We just got a round of applause for a high school win, and you in the second Hall of Fame induction in 24 hours didn't get a single smack. So, oh, I'm only kidding, just to try to set the mood tonight. Tomorrow, a really big day, the 2000 and 2001 Catawba Football Championship team reunions. That will happen, as well as a reunion from the 2000 Catawba cheerleading squad. Tomorrow it is Carson Newman, those dreaded Eagles from across the mountain, 1 o'clock, and then men's and women's soccer. So a full day of athletics tomorrow here in Salisbury. A note before we get started, if all of our Hall of Famers afterwards, if you do not mind meeting back in the Crystal Lounge so we can get one more big group photo, that would be great. We think we still have some film in the camera. If you did not get your picture taken with Devonte pregame, you're the only one, because Devonte was taking pictures with everybody. Okay, so the original plan was for Salisbury High to be playing tonight. So Brian Hinson was set to go first so that we could get him off stage and onto the field. And because we had all the programming figured out, we have not moved any of that, so the order that you see in this program is incorrect. Brian Hinson will be our first inductee, so if our team would fire off the video, and Brian, if you'd get ready to join me up here, that would be great. Please welcome Hall of Famer Brian Hinson. So we've never met before, correct?
No, sir.
You have
not
no
at all.
idea what questions are coming, right?
I do not.
All right.
Unfortunately, I do not.
What's your shoe size?
14.
Wow, that's not really on the list, but I'm sure everybody appreciates
It's
it.
a lot of weight that pushes me down, so it just stretches it out.
Orthopedic stores are making their money off of you,
Amen.
right? You're the youngest of 4 boys, and to stay involved and to keep up, you played football with them, you played sports with them. As being the youngest of 4 in that set, were they kind to you? Were they fair to you? Tell me about that start in your athletic life.
Definitely not kind and definitely not fair. I got pinned down a lot, get beat up a lot, and then some of us have been in the same boat where the older brother pins you down and they have that spit that hangs down. Yeah, so it didn't go well, but it was definitely a learning experience, and it made me tough, which paid off in the end, I suppose.
So if you had spit on your Hall of Fame bingo card, you can cross that off and see how the rest of it goes. You garnered a lot of accolades your junior and senior year in high school. What was that transition like, going from being the big trophy winner in high school to all of a sudden being on a college campus and not being that big fish in a small pond?
It was definitely a learning experience. When I first arrived at Catawba, Scott Wood was our starting left tackle, who was an All-American himself and a fifth-year senior. Unfortunately, he had student teaching in that semester, so he would get to practice about 3/4 of the way through practice. So I had to take every rep until that point. But it helped me, but it was definitely a learning experience, and everything paid off in the end. And after my redshirt year, I got to start as a redshirt freshman, which, you look around and you're the youngest guy on the offensive line. You got to ask a lot of questions, but it was learning.
And that's a really good segue, because part of the reason I asked that question was that your freshman year, as you just testified, you had to get used to it. But your sophomore, junior, and senior year, you ran the table on awards. So what was it about that transition year that really set your brain well here for Catawba?
First of all, I think you got to start with the gentleman that brought that recruiting class in, and he's here tonight, and he's a Hall of Famer himself. And I'm very blessed to be coached by David Bennett while I was here. So if y'all would give Coach Bennett a hand. But I had a great offensive line coach, Jamie Snyder. But the biggest thing was the competition at practice. Of course, Devonte is going to be up here and talk a lot later. But
that's why he's last.
Exactly. But practicing against a gentleman such as Devonte, and Huss is somewhere in here. If right there's Huss, who still looks like he could play. The Hall of Famer, Rodell Lockhart. That's 3 guys that I had to practice against while I was here. And all they did was make me a better football player. And a lot of what happened over that time is attributed to those 3 gentlemen as well.
You mentioned Coach Bennett being here tonight. I'm sure you have a Coach Bennett imitation, right? Everybody does. Can you do a Coach Bennett?
I don't know how good my Coach Bennett imitation is, but I did wear some socks tonight that has a dog on them.
Does it hunt?
Well, it's just we got to have more dogs.
It's not bad.
It's an homage to Coach Bennett.
That's a pretty good imitation. You immediately, it seemed like, went into coaching as soon as you got out of here. Was it predestined for you, given that you were growing up with sports, that you played it through high school and college? Was it predestined that you were going to be a coach?
Maybe so, but at the time I didn't really know it. I looked at a bunch of different options of things that I wanted to do after graduating college. And as I came to Catawba, in high school, I liked football. I enjoyed it. When I came to Catawba and I got to be a part of that family that we had here, that family atmosphere, I fell in love with the sport a lot more. Again, thanks to the coaching staff and the players that we had, and just moved into the teaching world. And, I felt at that point, this is my way to give back. I think that's the biggest thing that everybody can do, is somehow give back to people. And that was my way of doing it.
And it's hard to rip that Band-Aid off of being around a team for so long. You can't just walk away from it.
No, you cannot. And you know, when you love something the way that I love being a part of football, and of course Devonte does too, because I believe he's been playing for a long time. You find your way to be a part of it, and that was my outlet. And I've been blessed in my coaching profession so far, and it's paid off for me.
You've had the privilege to see football as a youth. You've had a chance to watch football through the lens of an adult. As the adult you, if you had the chance to go back and talk to the younger you about football, what would you tell yourself?
Enjoy every minute of it because it goes by so fast. And that's the thing that I try to talk to the kids, the guys that play for me now. You know, everybody talks about the Friday night lights, and it is true. And I just want them to enjoy every experience and every opportunity they have to play the game. And looking back, I don't know if I did that. And I would just say, hey, enjoy every experience you get to play this game.
My questions were preset before the game was moved to last night. So this last question I can't really ask, so I'll make up one as we go. 14 games in a row now. You talk about being a mentor to the youth. What type of culture, how do you create that culture for your football program with a bunch of adolescents, right, pre-adults? What's the secret to creating a good football culture?
I think the biggest thing, and you know, when I first took over at Salisbury, the culture was not there. And culture is a big word in the coaching profession right now. But again, to reference Coach Bennett, you know, I spoke with him, and one of the things he said to me was, tell them you love them. And I work with a lot of low socioeconomic, underprivileged kids. And I don't know how often they hear that. And one of the things that I wanted to be able to do also is bring in a coaching staff that would invest back into the children. And I have been blessed to do that. We have a great coaching staff who puts work into our children. If they need food, we'll buy them food. If they need a ride home, we'll take them home. If we have to pick them up, we'll pick them up. And it's just a staff and it's a staff that does a lot of great things to try to show love to the young men that we work around every day.
Everybody tonight gets, go ahead, please. Everybody tonight will get the same last question. So who would you like to thank tonight?
There's a lot of people here. First and foremost, you know, my wife, we were not married, of course, while I was playing football, but in my coaching profession, she has been huge. Every coach has to have a great wife, and I do. And I have 2 great children who are here with me as well. But my parents are here, and probably the person who wanted this the most was my mother. For the Hall of Fame to happen, and it's happened. She would even tell me, I want this to happen before I die. I know it's a little bit of a morbid joke, but she would say that, so I'm glad she gets to experience. My dad is here as well, and I'd like to thank them. And there's a lot of people, family and friends are here, and just there's a lot to name. And there's some teammates who are here as well who I played with who, you know, you played together 20 years ago, and you still have that bond. So I'd like to thank all of them as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Hall of Famer Brian Hinson. And let's meet our next Hall of Famer, Jim Baker. I joined the Elon staff in 1995, and in starting a marketing department there, I was also tasked with starting a radio production. And so anytime we would come here to play you would whip our butts. So it's actually nice to be able to sit here and you not yelling or scoring 40 points on us. So
Well,
thank
it's
you.
probably yelling at the officials,
Could have
too.
been, yeah. And they're yellable, I guess. I get the sense that sports, that basketball was just sequenced in your DNA. Am I wrong in that?
Yeah, I was blessed to be in a fun family, a sports family. My dad coached me in high school. My mom taught PE. In fact, she beat me in playing 21 one time in front of the whole gym class. So, and my grandmother worked in the cafeteria. So my brother and I, who's here tonight, we couldn't hide. We were right in the middle of it. And my mom says she claimed to do this, and my dad, I thought, did it. But we go back and forth. Both thought that my brother and I not to go into coaching and go into business, and here we are. So.
Let's stay on the family track for a few minutes. You were a player for your father. You were a son of your father. What's that relationship like when you're on the court 1 minute and around the dining room table the next?
You get chewed out a lot at home. You get chewed out. And now my little guy Jake is over at Central with me now, and he gets chewed out on the way home. So it's yeah, and that's part of it. You know, it's a great experience, and you get to be around your parents, and it becomes a way of family. And I think that was one thing when I started coaching here. I tried to make it a family, and you know, when my kids, my wife, my mom around the team, and you know, you can't play basketball forever, and you got to have some relationships. And you know, I just remember the great times we had on the bus in high school, and you know, I tried to carry that over when we were playing here.
How does your brother factor into this?
Baseball, I was basketball, and he's been at Florida State for, Lord, 40 years. He's been there a while, and we were both very competitive growing up, but I sort of went to the basketball route. He went baseball. I was starting to play Little League one time, and I got a hit, and the Salisbury Post put his picture in the paper. So, I mean, that sort of ended my baseball career. I struck out quite a bit.
Was that really the moment of inflection that you decided to go somewhere
when
else?
you strike out a lot, but when you get one hit and they still put his picture in there, I said, forget this baseball. We're going to go play some basketball.
I know this is not about me, but I went to Mike Roberts' baseball camp when I was in high school, and I was struggling at the plate. I got a hit, and I came running back to the dugout after I was thrown out at second or something. I was like, Coach, I did it. He goes, yeah, but you used a fungo bat. So I certainly understand about moving in a different direction. When you left high school, you went to UNC Charlotte and eventually wound up here. So take us through that journey.
I went to Charlotte probably for the wrong reason. My best friend, Steve Huffman, since second grade was going, so I tagged along and went with him and tried out for the JV team. And they were in their heyday. They had Cedric Maxwell, Melvin Watkins. They were really good. And the day of the first JV game, a scholarship player signed the red shirts. I played more than anybody. I was like, I never come off the court. But them guys, they dunking it backwards and upside down. And athletic, I couldn't compete with them. And my dad called Coach Moyer and said, can Jim come up here and talk to you? And you walked into Coach Moyer's office, and he had a clipboard with some white typing paper on it and a number 2 pencil. And as soon as I sat down, he goes, Baker, here I can give you this scholarship, this little scholarship. He had me on $200 tennis scholarship. And I don't know how he went and talked the tennis coach and give me some money. I went out for one day. I come back and said, Coach, I really won't be in the gym. He said, it's okay. You can keep his money and just keep playing. So, you know, I wasn't a great player here, but it set me up for the rest of my life. And 3 of my teammates are in the Hall of Fame, and we had a couple good years and, you know, some of the best time in your life.
Quick follow-up question then. How long were you at Charlotte before
1 year.
Before you became a tennis student
I came up here
athlete?
for 3, so.
Got it. So you said yourself some years ago, and these are your words, not mine, and you just sort of said it as well. You said you weren't a very good basketball player. How is it that you weren't good at basketball, but then you became an excellent basketball coach?
I think if you're really talented and athletic, you don't study it. And you try to get by because you can jump higher and run faster. And, I sat on the bench and watched a lot. And I watched Coach Moore, your coach. And, when you're sitting there, you're talking to your teammates. A lot of people probably here don't realize one of my teammates, Bob Bouchard, is out and just retired at Columbia. He won a ton of games. So we'd sit on the bench and we'd talk basketball, what would you do, and so forth. So, I think in the long run, the kids were bigger, faster, and quicker, but I had an opportunity. I found my niche. And, if I hadn't come here and played for Coach Moyer, he loved me and he wanted to give me a chance to replace him, I wouldn't be here. So,
Is there an element of basketball that seemed to fit your eye? Because there's so many components of it. Was it free throw shooting? Was it the box and one? Was it there something that went, I figured that's easy for me to get?
I don't know. It's you're around it and you study it, and it becomes easy for you. And it's not rocket science, but I always said you better know about 100% of what you know, and it becomes a natural when to call the timeout, when to make the change. And the good thing about coaching, or the bad thing, you don't have a lifeline. You can't call somebody to help you. You can't go search the internet at halftime. How do we attack this 2-3 zone? And it's all based on gut feel and experience and so forth. So,
You said your parents wanted you guys to go into business. You didn't. We know what your brother's done, and if he were up here, I'd ask him this question. What would you have done from 1978 through 2021 if you did not have basketball?
Lord, I don't know. I've never been asked that question. I mean, that's a tough one. I mean,
Well,
it
you
was
still
just
got, in my clock here, you still got about 2 minutes. So
it was just in our blood. We were around it, and we saw my dad coach and line the cinder track off by hand. I used to watch the coaches push mow the football field, and you push mow in the football field. You gotta love what you were doing. And there was Bob Hunley, Ralph Shatterly. I mean, they treat us like sons, and we just saw what they were doing, and it was we loved it, and we loved being around it, and it was a lot of fun.
who would you like to thank tonight?
Ooh, long list. My mom, my dad. My dad's no longer here, but I think he would be happy tonight. My wife, Tina, been with me through the whole thing. People probably don't know this, maybe Marvin Moore. Our 2004 team was really struggling, and Tina probably got that championship for Catawba. And we were struggling, and I about killed those kids for 3 days going in the tournament. And I was walking out the door that morning, said, boy, I can't wait till this season's over with. And she says, well, if you feel that way, you might as well not go up there. So, okay. So I rode up to Catawba, and by that afternoon, I said, she's right. So I started telling the kids all these stories and embellishing them about great games Marvin Moore had, where we ate at Wendy's after the SAC tournament. We were playing in Hickory. All these just stories. And we turned around and beat the number 2 team, the number 3 team, and the number 4 team. Probably the biggest run, greatest run in the history of the SAC. We were the 7th seed. And we were in NCAA Division I, Division II, men and women. We were the only team in there with a losing record. And so I thank my wife for that. My kids are here. Very competitive family. Basketball. I got 2 college gymnasts, and we're sitting around at night eating just before they all start going away. I'd say, could the best athlete in the family pass me the mashed potatoes? And oh my gosh, they're fighting over the potatoes. They're yelling. They're arguing about which is harder, basketball or gymnastics, all that. And I look over there, and my wife goes, why do you do that? So I just, make them competitive. And my assistant coaches were great. And the players, I got 4 or 5 of them here. I posted some on Facebook today and got a little teary-eyed with them. They were complimenting me and all that. So, and you think about your time at Catawba. Dr. Meyer, I think he taught me more. It's a great day to work. And it became, it's a great day to Indian. And then I went to Davidson, it became a great day to be a Wildcat. Now I was at Virginia Tech, it became a great day to be a Hokie. And then came back here, it's a great day to be an Indian. And now I'm at Central Cabarrus High School, it's a great day to be a Viking. And I think about Dr. Meyer and Bill Russell and the great coaches here, Dave Bennett. You know, we go and have therapy with each other. We lose a game, I go in there and tell him, Coach Bennett, you got to run Charlie 10 hitch. And that was our favorite play we joked about. I go see Coach Gant, and we give each other therapy. Dr. Bill Russell, and some professors here, Dr. Mullis, Dr. Montgomery. They were just, to this day, they mean a lot to me.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Hall of Famer Jim Baker.
Before we fire off the next video, I was remiss at the beginning to recognize the previous Hall of Fame inductees that are with us tonight. Stand if you like. Round of applause at the end, please. Curtis Walker, Marvin Moore, Tom Childress, Jim Gant, Charla Hill, Charles Little, Vidal Lockhart, and Paige Stallcup. Round of applause for these that have rejoined us. Our next inductee, if you're following the list, is Todd Blake.
A lot of good-looking pictures up there.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Why baseball?
Well, from what I understand, the day I was born, you know, my dad put a baseball in my left hand and said, this is going to be my pitcher, my left-handed first baseman, and I guess it stuck. I mean, I've never wanted to play another sport.
But you hold the microphone with your right hand.
I do a lot of things, you know, ambidextrous. You know, I shoot a gun right-handed, I shoot pull right-handed, I write right-handed, but kick, throw, swing is all left-handed.
So if you had a baseball early on, like day one,
Right.
How much of your personality as a youth was dictated by the sport of baseball?
That was really all I ever did. I mean, I would walk around with a glove on. I'd walk around. We'd go to church. I'd go to, you know, outside to play with my friends, and I always had a bat and a ball with me and a glove. So if you didn't play a sport or didn't play baseball, I didn't want to kind of hang out with you because that's what I wanted to do. So it played a huge part in my life.
Did people talk about you at all? You show up at church with a glove on? We need to worry about that Todd
Well, I
Blake
didn't
kid.
take it to the, you know, actually in the sanctuary, but, you know, afterwards we'd go play.
In high school at Jordan in Durham, you were not only a really good pitcher,
Right.
really good batter as well. Which of the two did you like more?
I always loved hitting. Hitting was I think my passion. You know, I just, honestly, the fact that I was left-handed, you know, I always got stuck pitching. And also growing up, I threw harder than most, you know, in Little League, so it was just inevitable, hey, you're going to pitch and hit at the same time. But, you know, I love playing every day, so anytime I could hit, that's what I love to do.
Were you at the advantage of as a batter because you had the mindset of a pitcher?
You know, I don't know. I just think, you know, I kind of, you know, you maybe know some of the counts that maybe or what pitches were coming, and he kind of knew, okay, hey, if 0-2, what was coming. So I just think a lot of it was just good hand-eye coordination, you know, mixed in.
The movie Major League comes to mind. If everybody remembers that 1989 movie, there was one batter, one player that could not hit the curveball. Serrano could not hit it. The All-State guy now, right?
Right, yeah.
Is there a pitch that gave you fits?
You know, probably, it's a great story. This is my freshman year, we're playing Pfeiffer, and it was a night game, and they had a guy named Petlick, I think it was Mike Petlick or Jim Petlick. He got drafted by the Yankees, but he threw like 94 miles an hour. I mean, and it was dark. This night is the Newman Park, you know, the lights weren't that great. And I couldn't even see the first pitch. It looked like an aspirin tablet. And I'm walking back, and my dad's like, why didn't you hit it? I'm like, I couldn't see it. So I would probably, you know, think a fastball in the mid-90s was pretty tough.
All right, so before we get to Catawba, you told me the story about walking into your high school coach's office and some misplaced, ill-placed papers on the floor. Can you give the room a bit of a sense on why it is you didn't get more phone calls in high school?
You know, I think, you know, I had a great high school coach, but I think he was on his last leg of retirement, and another player of ours, Joe Meyer, you know, we'd go into his office and just, you know, just hang out with him, and we saw some recruiting, you know, informational kits from like Duke and NC State, and they were just kind of shoved in the, you know, in the drawer, and, you know, we were like, you know, Coach, who is this for? He's like, well, you know, we didn't think, you know, especially Duke, you know, you would have the grades to get into Duke, and it's true. I wouldn't, but it was just, it was kind of like, okay, hey, just, we were an afterthought. So, yeah, things worked out.
Jim talked about studying the game of basketball. You obviously, by account, had a ball in your hands since day one. Why was your eye so well trained for baseball, beyond the 94-mile-an-hour pitch in the dark? Why is it that you had such an eye for baseball?
I don't know. I think it was, a lot of us just, I love the sport. I worked at it a lot. You know, I was always hitting. I was always just, it was fun for me. So anytime you do something that's fun, it doesn't seem like work. So I was used to it. And maybe, honestly, maybe it was because, you know, I shoot pull right-handed. You know, my right eye dominant maybe, you know. And I just saw the ball better, you know, and I was able to hit from the left side. So, but it was just fun to play.
You and I are not too far off in age, and we've seen a lot of change in baseball over the years. What's the most dramatic change within the sport that you've picked up on?
I just think players are, like with all athletes, are bigger, faster, stronger. You know, I remember calling my dad after my first year with the Cardinals in spring training, and I called and said, you know, I can play with the guys from Miami. I can play with the guys from Stanford. They're just as good, or I'm better than they are. I mean, there's no competition really. But when those players that came from the Caribbean, and I got to see those guys play, I mean, they were amazing. They just had a different level. But I think just training, you know, the way, you know, nutrition, you know, plays a lot into it now. You know, I don't ever recall doing ab work. You know, now I think, you know, if I knew that now, you know, I would just focus on core and legs. But you know, I didn't know. There wasn't a lot of information out there, probably.
So at your age now, what role does baseball play in your life?
Yeah, it's just a fan. You know, really, I don't. My kids, my son's a football player at Campbell University. My daughter's a freshman at Georgia Southern. I think he played maybe 2 years of t-ball, maybe. And I saw him at shortstop putting dirt on his shoes, and I said, "You're immediately playing right field." And but he was a really good basketball player and a really good football player, and he kind of gravitated toward that. And I started coaching him in football. And so yeah, but I'm just a fan of baseball. I love the sport.
You're a North Carolina kid. You live in Georgia now. Must have been a pretty good deal to get you to leave the state, huh?
Yeah, my wife, she was here tonight. We met at the top of the hill in Chapel Hill, and we started dating, and she was from Durham as well, and she's like, "Hey, I'm going to University of Georgia to get my PhD. Basically, you're coming with her. Maybe we're not going to be together." And so she kind of, you know, we kind of drew the line in the sand, which we joke about that, but yeah, we went down there on a leap of faith, and you know, our goal was to be down there for 5 years. We moved down there in June of '97. We're still there. Right.
So who would you like to thank tonight?
You know, I'd love to, you know, first of all, the good Lord above. Definitely. I told Ian I wouldn't I wouldn't get emotional, but it's hard. Definitely my parents. You know, they were just tremendous from day one, coming to every game. I'm talking about every game I played. They did not miss a game. Definitely my wife, my kids, my teammates. I mean, 1992, we were 21-0. We undefeated. We're like the 1970 Miami Dolphins. And really, it was because of the team. Everybody had a role. No one player stood out. You know, we all came from various backgrounds with various levels of recruitment, but when we came together, and we kicked everybody's butt, and it was fun. And I also like to thank Coach Gant, you know, because not many people know that Gant was a senior in my freshman year. So not only did I get to play with him, but he got to coach me, and we became really good friends. So not only
That's Hall of Famer Todd Blake, everybody.
For the second time in 24 hours, Michael Cabana, you are up. The uncomfortable pause. If you want to, maybe it'll run while we're talking.
So what'll happen is, about midway through our conversation, the photos will roll, and then you and I will just stop and admire you for a little bit. How's that?
Sounds like a plan.
Where were you last night for Hall of Fame number one?
I was in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, at my high school, Cardinal Gibbons.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. It's a really big deal. Your mother introduced you and your brother to tennis, right?
Yes, sir.
So what were the circumstances behind that?
We moved from upstate New York down to Florida. She started working at a local high school.
There it is.
There we go. Right on cue.
So make sure we're watching the right video, because that guy had hair in some of those pictures.
That's true. That's,
So anyway, your mother and your brother in the tennis thing.
I forgot the question.
That's okay. So your mother introduced you and your brother to tennis. What were the circumstances behind that?
Okay, so we're down in Florida, came from New York. She's working at a local high school, and she started coaching tennis, the women's program or the ladies program at St. Thomas Aquinas. And she just kind of said, you know, let's start playing tennis. And before I played a little bit of baseball, I was not a lefty pitcher, so it wasn't very good. And so we started. I was probably a little heavier set back in the day, and so when you come from New York and you go down to Florida, those first couple lessons were very eye-opening on the fact that I was really out of shape. So that kind of started the whole process.
It's interesting, though, because not only did you get the grand nod last night, but if you look at your high school career, you and your mates had a lot of success. I mean, like a lot. So I wonder within that, as a budding adult, how did you handle failure? And what failures were there in the process of learning the sport?
You know, tennis is very individual, obviously. And so, you know, if you have a basketball player who might have a bad game, that you can hide that in a stat line. You can hide that maybe, if someone didn't catch a ball on a football field. But with tennis, if you fail, you only have yourself to blame. And so we practice for perfection in a sport that perfection is unattainable. And so every time you stepped on the tennis court, you'd learn something, and you had to adapt. There were plenty of times where I came home and I had to tell my mom I cracked a racket. That didn't go over very well. So I had to learn how to harness my emotions and keep them in check and do well. And so I think that's, every time I stepped on the court, I learned something about failure and how to overcome it.
Were you ever motivated by the fear of failure, meaning that you did not want to fail, so therefore you drove yourself a little bit harder?
I wasn't always the most talented person, especially not my family. I mean, my brother had way more talent than I did. I just had to outwork him. And so I think that is why I push myself so hard. And I continue that, push myself as a high school kid, and I push myself now as a college coach and try to get my players to do the same thing, so I can take that experience and hopefully institute that in some younger people now.
You came to Catawba because of the small family feel that it had. Did you give any other schools consideration before you chose this one?
Yeah, I looked at a few. Actually, Belmont Abbey up the road, went there. I went there first and came here. Looked at Fairfield University in Connecticut, and so those were kind of probably the couple biggest ones that I looked at.
I want to make sure I get the stat right, so I'm going to cheat right here. 98 wins between singles and doubles at Catawba. What was the strength of that game? This from the pudgy kid that first had a couple lessons and went, this ain't it.
I didn't like to lose. I remember when I first got here, Jeff Childress riding up on his bike, gave me a Wingate tennis shirt and had me running around the soccer field. We were jumping over these hurdles half the time. I don't know what we were doing, but he got me in shape, probably the best shape of my life. And so I knew when I walked on the tennis court that not many people have probably done the conditioning that I did or went through, and I knew that I could stay out there all day if I had to. With tennis, there is no shot clock. There's no time frame. So, we could be out there 3.5 hours and just, I'm going to win that match.
So 98 wins. Were there any weaknesses, any chinks in the armor there, or anything that wasn't satisfactory for you in your playing over 4 years?
Everything always needed to get better.
It's a good athlete's response, right?
Yeah, I think, just trying to stay confident every time you stepped on the tennis court. Every day when you compete, you might have a test, you might have something going on. Being able to block that out every time, I think, sometimes was difficult. And being able to, in my role on the tennis teams, to make sure that I led by example, I think it can weigh on you a little bit as you go forward. So I think that was probably the hardest part.
As the head coach of a squad within this league, one that competes against this school, when you step out onto the court when Wingate takes on Catawba, emotions, feeling, what's going through you?
I want Catawba to be successful in every athletic event that they compete against, except when I play against them. I remember when I first started at Wingate, or Wingate, however, I think that's what I called
There
it.
is a line in the sand, right? Some generations
there's a
this,
difference,
right?
yes. But I think one of the days, and I still remember this, we were getting ready to play Catawba, and I brought an old Catawba tennis shirt out to practice at Wingate, and I laid it over the fence, and I said, if you lose this tomorrow, I'm going to put this on. So I still remember that, and I think we might have lost that. For my first couple of years, they beat us pretty good, but we've gotten them back.
I I asked a question earlier, Brian, about culture. Does your experience here at a smaller D2, did that help you establish the culture at another small D2? Happens to be in the same league, but did this experience help your professional growth?
100%. I mean, I take what I learned here at Catawba as an undergrad and being part of this tennis program for 4 years, and the relationships that I made here and built and still have to this day, I take that with me and use that in my coaching at Wingate. You know, and I think it boils down to that family environment, that family feel, and I think that's kind of how you know, the team above self kind of mindset. And sometimes that's hard to do when you've played an individual sport your entire life. And so that is what I learned here and that I take with me to what I do on a day-to-day basis.
Who would you like to thank tonight?
Definitely like to thank my my mom, my dad, for all the sacrifices that they made. I have to thank my beautiful wife, who I actually met here at Catawba. And so we have been married for 15, 16 years
Do
now.
we check the inside of the ring? That's what I do, yeah.
And obviously our beautiful daughters, Mila and Leah, they, you know, and I think Brian alluded to it earlier about the strength that you need to have behind you as a coach. And my wife is that. She's our rock at the house. But I also like to thank, you know, my teammates. I mean, they are still to this day, we communicate, and they are still my family. And so, and I know I'm probably forgetting somebody, but I didn't get here by myself, and so it took a village, and I'm just truly appreciative for everything that they've done for me and sacrificed for me.
Michael Cabana, Hall of Famer.
Next up, as you're following along, it is Gerard Gregory.
Boy, the intensity in your eye in those last couple of shots.
That's my coaching face.
All right, do I need to move over here just in case?
Mellowed out.
We've talked about the influence of siblings and family members tonight. It seems to be a bit of a reoccurring theme. You have a brother that gave you a reason to kick a ball for the first time. Take us through that.
Oh yeah. So my brother Alan was introduced. My mom and dad obviously got him into the game.
A little bit closer with the mic.
So yeah, he played the first year, and the next year I followed suit, and you know, just kept following him as he kept playing.
He's got 1 year on you or 2 years on you?
He's like 2 years, 18 months.
Got it.
So yeah.
Soccer in New York in the 70s and 80s, describe that for us. And the reason I ask, I'm a North Carolina kid, and it seemed like from the 70s, 80s, and 90s here in North Carolina, we kept saying, oh, soccer's coming, it's going to turn the corner. What was it like in New York during your youth?
Well, New York, the Cosmos were playing, so the NASL had the greatest superstars in the world playing at that time in our country, and so, you know, that kind of caught the bug. want to, emulate those guys. And yeah, just that was it. I wanted to play.
Were there any other sporting options for you during those formative years?
Nope. My brother played baseball one year, and next year he played soccer, and then he kind of liked that, so I followed suit.
I want to get this right as well, so you'll get that from time to time. In high school, you posted 49 goals and 31 assists. You played varsity as a freshman, and you played with your brother. You even excelled at the sport in high school after your brother left. That seems dreamlike.
Yeah, for me, it was always chasing my brother. Like sibling rivalries, I think for most kids that follow siblings in a sport, they try to get, they get better because of it. And no doubt that my brother was the best player in our high school. And when he left, I had to fill those shoes. And, we just, had a good team and we were successful. But, yeah, that was it. I wanted to go for records and that kind of stuff. It was always in my mind.
I took one sociology class, but I do remember somebody saying that sibling rivalries sometimes are unhealthy. Sounds like yours was very healthy.
Yeah, it was, we were talking earlier, that tormenting, and it happens, so, for me, it's what drove me. We practiced together for a long time and competed in the yard every day. And then as we got older and the age difference, he was on different teams until high school again. And, yeah, when we got to play, it was special.
In considering the questions for you tonight, an interesting one occurred to me, and it's probably one that we can't answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. If you would have been the older one by 2 years, if you had not followed your brother to Catawba, what do you think your life would have been like?
Well, I had an opportunity to actually, if I was the older, I don't know, I had an opportunity to go play in Germany before college. So maybe I would have chosen that path. I don't know. But yeah, that might have been to show the way to him. I don't know.
So does your brother know that he won over the country of Germany? It's pretty darn impressive. I've been to Germany a couple of times. It's a nice country.
I've never been there. I wish I would have went the first time.
Next time you're over, I'll show you around.
There you go.
My wife's like watching tonight going, when are we going next time? Your accomplishments here at Catawba were amazing. We see it on the plaque. We certainly know your history here. What was it about that skill you had? What was it about the teammates that were around you at the time that get you to this point tonight?
Well, I think, coming into Catawba, found my brother, but on that team was Hall of Famer Kevin Sloan, who arguably, definitely, I think was the best player that played here. The atmosphere was competitive, and it was a war every time we went out and trained. So, just every day that was the thing, and trying to, again, follow in the footsteps. And like I said, when I met Kevin, and when he graduated, those records that were there for me to strive for. So, I tried to obviously, be successful as a team. The teams we had, I think every year I thought we could win a national championship. That's how I felt, and it didn't happen that way, but that was my goal every year. I came into the year I wanted to go undefeated, or just again. And we had the schedule we played back there. We were playing Carolina, Wake Forest, NC State every year. So it was good to rub elbows against those guys.
You've twice mentioned wanting to reach particular goals, awards, accolades. Give yourself a grade, A through F. Did you succeed at all of them and give yourself an A?
No. Obviously, I didn't reach the top. I wasn't, I don't know, like I said, I don't think I was the best I played here. So, B plus maybe.
Okay, that's fine. And on the curve, we're going to give you 7 points, so it's more like an A, okay?
All right.
What about the game do you miss as a player? Now, obviously, you're scratching the itch as a coach, but as a player, are there elements that you miss?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was always about playing. I mean, the teammates, that camaraderie, the culture of the team, you know, that was always special. And I think as a player and who played after college, that's what I missed the most when I stopped playing. So,
Who would you like to thank tonight?
well, all my coaches, when I got here, Ralph Wager taught me everything that was pertinent to the game, technically, tactically. All my teammates, my mom, my dad, my family, of course, my brother, and especially my roommates, Brian Eichelab, Colin O'Connor. Brian's advice to me when I was playing professionally, you know, steered me to meet my wife down in Tampa, and you know, the life I have today is, you know, pretty much due to, you know, the people that I've met here, and yeah, so was all meant to be in my eyes, you know. So that's it.
Hall of Famer Gerard Gregory, everybody.
You guys want to do Brian Hinson again? It's in the program that way. Okay, Jan Johnson Morgan is next up.
So how many buses did you rent for this group to come with you tonight?
Not one.
Not a single one, she says. When did you kick a soccer ball for the first time?
Oh, really, really young, probably 5 or 6.
Do you remember the circumstances? What surrounded that?
I think my parents just wanted to get me like involved in sports, and that's what was big, like in Greensboro, North Carolina. So
Well, and at Grimsley in Greensboro, I'm in Burlington. My dad went to Grimsley, so I certainly understand the prowess of sport at that school. Given your accomplishments on the pitch as a whirly, what were some of the failures that maybe helped elevate your game before you got here?
I think maybe like injuries. Probably I had some injuries in high school, and I think I had to overcome those a little bit. I guess also probably confidence. I think confidence I had a hard time with in high school, but my coach at the time at Grimsley was Hurt DeGraw, and he kind of helped build that a little bit, and then that carried on forward when the coaches I had at Catawba. So I think gaining confidence was something that.
Was there a moment of impact with Coach McGraw that you said, okay, not that I'm totally cured of not having confidence, but was there a moment or two that stands out that you as a budding adult said, okay, I got it?
I think probably just being a part of the team there. We won the state championship, I think, my junior year, and I think just doing that and being a part of that and feeling like I had done something to be a part of that team to win that, I think that helped.
What drew you 60 miles south from Greensboro? What drew you to Salisbury and Catawba?
I think I wanted to stay at a small school, and I wanted to stay close to home, and then I met Tom Furland. He came out and actually recruited my friend and I, who's in the audience tonight. She ended up going to Lenore Ryan, that's Susie. But she went to LR and I went to Catawba, but he just kind of won me over with the program and just the kind of person that he was. And so I think he kind of did it for me. So.
Did you look at anybody else? Did you go anywhere else on visits?
I went to Lenore Ryan, and then I looked at UNCG a little bit, but they were a bigger school. But I can't remember everywhere that I went. But once I had visited here, it's pretty much between Catawba and LR, I think.
You mentioned injury in high school. Did you have any injuries here? Because in my readings, I didn't see that you were sidelined at all.
I was never sidelined, but I was wrapped. Both of my ankles were wrapped every single game. So I think they told the athletic trainers that I was not to go out on the field without both of my ankles wrapped because I would turn them pretty much all the time. So I played with hurt ankles a lot. But
So what does that stem from? Is it hereditary? Did you step in a couple of bad holes at one point?
I'm not sure. I guess I don't know. Once it happens once, I think that's prone to happen again.
Yeah, it's right here at that point, isn't
yeah.
it? Your experience here obviously catapulted you into adulthood. We've had a couple of our Hall of Famers mention the impact that just being on this campus had. What influence did it have in the moment, and what influence has that had on your life since?
I think, like, my freshman year, a lot of things that the coach then, Tommy, did for us is we did things in the community. We went to the VA hospital, and we just kind of learned volunteerism, kind of how that made you feel in the community and stuff. So I continued to do that after I graduated. So I think I just kind of learned to being a part of a community was important to me, and it made me feel good. So the soccer team did that for us.
Playing highlights while you were here, whether individually or as a team, what stands out for you?
I think I was thinking about this week, and I was thinking about the team that I was on here. We had really, really talented people. However, the heart that the team had, the girls on the team, I mean, never, ever gave up. And I think, to me, that's what that stood out to me, is being a part of that team and learning from each other, just trying so hard and just giving it all. You know, even if we weren't the best team out there, we were gonna try. We were gonna look like we were.
There's a movie in the late 80s or early 90s, maybe it was the late 90s actually, called Sliding Doors. And the idea is that if that door had opened that way, your life would have changed or been different. If you did not have that set of teammates that you had, if you had not had those volunteer opportunities, if the door had slid just the other way, what would your life be like today?
I have no idea. Probably not as good as it is. Like I learned so much from being here and being a part of a team in this community here, Catawba College in general. I'm not sure what it would be like, but I wouldn't give it away for anything.
Some of that volunteerism, you actually were coaching youth teams in clinics while you were an undergrad here. Mm-hmm. Soccer was so much a part of your life. And I'm a sports nut, I'm a sports guy. I'm curious to find out why it is you did not pursue it as a profession, because it had been ingrained in you at such a young age.
I think, honestly, I went back to school at UNCG to get my teaching certificate. I was going to teach Spanish, coach soccer somewhere. And I think when I went and I looked in on the classes, I realized, man, I don't know if I can do this or not. The kids just, you know, I didn't know that I wanted so bad to be a teacher, so I didn't think it was enough to just want to be a teacher and to coach. So at that point, I was like, I don't think it was right for me. But I did coach a couple years after, you know, at Grimsley. I coached the boys, and I did that for a couple years, but I didn't pursue it as.
Part of what I heard in that was I could not coach somebody that was like me. And you're doing that from an adult perspective. Did you have an appreciation for your coaches a little bit more after you sort of audited those classes?
Yes, I did.
And so what do you do now?
I work for a mortgage insurance company downtown in Greensboro. So
I'm in Greensboro all the time. You have a favorite restaurant? Maybe one I haven't heard of
I
yet?
will say, we live out in the country. I live with my husband and my daughter. They're out there. And,
In the country or out here?
no.
Just checking.
But,
Part of
we
the
go-
500 people that you brought tonight.
Bill's Pizza is probably
I've been to
my
Bill's.
favorite.
Bill's is awesome, see? Into the
probably
tip
my
jar for
favorite.
Bill's.
Yeah.
Fill in the blank. If not for soccer,
What would I be doing now?
I just said fill in the blank. So if not for soccer,
Okay. If not for soccer, I probably, wouldn't feel the way about things I do today, and I wouldn't have, like, my daughter's 12, and I'm constantly trying to instill in her how important it is to be a part of a team and how important that experience is. The friends that you make when you're, young, high school, college, on those teams, nothing matches them. So.
is she getting that message, do you think?
I hope so. Sometimes I think so, sometimes not quite yet, but she's just 12, so.
We've all been there. Who would you like to thank tonight?
My folks are out there tonight, my mom and dad, absolutely. My brother's here. I'd like to thank them. The coaches that I had at Catawba were phenomenal. Tom Furland, of course, Marion Martinelli. Then my senior year, I had Kevin Dempsey and Tim Santoro, who both coach at colleges now, and I just feel fortunate that we were able to get them ground level as our coach. My teammates, absolutely. I had some wonderful teammates with, so much heart and just supportive, and it was just a great experience. Two Hall of Famers, Cherie Dalton, Allison Ankerson, were on my team, and we just ridiculously fortunate and thank them. And I think someone mentioned the professors at Catawba as well. It was just a great community, and then my friends. I've got a lot of friends here tonight that I would like to thank also. So.
And on that note, that's your Hall of Famer, Jan Johnson Morgan.
Please welcome Ann McArthur Jobe.
Well, thank you.
So excited about this.
Are you really?
Excited about sitting here?
Yeah.
No.
Are you? You're not? Do you want to sit over there?
No.
I can stand over. Okay. All right. So growing up, you participated, I think I have this right, in 5 sports. You played basketball, softball, swimming, track, and volleyball. So what was it about volleyball that finally garnered all of your attention?
I guess it was a sport that I ended up being the best at. I thought it was basketball for a long time, but growing up playing all kinds of sports, I think, first of all, I think it's very important that student athletes or athletes play a lot of sports. I think that we're kind of fine-tuned to one sport now, and I think that's actually not a great thing. I would never give up any of the sports I played, but volleyball, I think it became my best sport. I also played softball here at Catawba, but I would still say volleyball was my better sport.
You mentioned basketball. You said you weren't very good. Was there a moment of impact for you with basketball in which you were like, no, this is not for me?
Probably my freshman year in high school, I kind of was a competitive student and athlete. And my best friend at the time, Michelle Hobson, she was the basketball star even as a freshman. And we both made varsity, but I didn't see probably hardly any minutes on the court whatsoever. And so I think it was the lack of playing time at that point. I just focused more and more on volleyball.
When a manager had a better seat than you did on the bench, that was the point in which
The manager was my best friend.
Hint, hint. All conference and all region in high school, but it still wasn't enough to get you noticed by college programs. Take us through that.
So I was in high school in the mid to early 80s, and club sports were not in my hometown yet. I mean, we had the Girls Athletic Association. It was barely even past Title IX, I believe, that we really didn't have. It was really the Girls Athletic Association. My dad was a coach and got to go through all those sports. Tell me the question again. Lost it.
You were all conference and all regional while at Andrews High and High Point. I left that part out.
Okay.
You went to Andrews.
All right, yes.
But those honors didn't get you a lot of attention still.
Right, so I remember, I guess my senior year in high school, that there was one of the newspapers, local newspapers in the kind of Greensboro, High Point, Winston-Salem area would select a highlight sports person for the week, and I got that one week. And so in my head, I thought, well, maybe I am as good as I, could go to college and play. But kind of like someone up here said, our coaches in high school, they were more basketball oriented. We didn't really have coaches pushing volleyball. I think I knew more about volleyball than they did. And my volleyball experience was really coming from the pool that I grew up in with lifeguards playing volleyball. And so it wasn't a well-known sport in our hometown whatsoever. And so at that point, I kind of went to the coaches myself and said, I'm thinking about playing in college, and do you have any suggestions? And at that time, Catawba was NAIA, along with, I guess, Elon, Guilford, and so they had tryouts during that time, and so I went to those tryouts and kind of promoted myself, really.
So at those tryouts, you went to LR to try out, Elon to try out, Catawba. How did Catawba win over everybody else?
So Catawba was really in a rebuilding phase. Coach Connie Nicholson was the new head coach. And so when I came to the tryout, I was learning things at the tryout that I didn't know from high school. And so it was kind of a learning experience being at the tryout. But I really enjoyed the intensity. She was more of an educator coach. She was really, she was a thinker. She thought through the game. And I appreciated that part. And I went to the other tryouts, didn't really feel the same, but each coach came to our high school. There was one of my teammates, Joyce Robinson, who also played volleyball and basketball here at Catawba. She was also being recruited by similar schools. And when Coach Nick came to our school, she had messed up on a babysitting gig for her youngest child. And Katie was with her, crawling under the tables, asking when could they go home. And I thought, okay, I think I need to play for this coach. Yeah.
So you were learning as you went from a tryout standpoint.
Yes.
It may not be here nor there, but was Catawba first in that series? Were they last? Meaning, did you learn a couple of things to get you ready for the Catawba tryouts?
I do not remember the sequence of the tryouts. I read the two tryouts I remember the most were Catawba and Guilford. And those were the two schools I really chose between at the end. But I was kind of like another Hall of Fame person that was up here earlier, that Catawba was really good at finding scholarships. I had a decent GPA out of high school, and between academics and volleyball, and then Nan and Cecil Whitley came and watched a softball game, and then they gave me scholarships for softball. It was really all those things. And then the church I attended in High Point also was United Church of Christ, and there was a scholarship there. So it was just all these little scholarships together really helped.
I love the way a moment ago you said that you are a pretty competitive student and athlete. Mm-hmm. You didn't say student athlete. So that speaks to your character as someone that really got after the study. What's the secret in integrating those academics and those athletics? Because you won awards in both while here.
So I was telling my my family, my stepdaughter Maggie is here with us, and she's a shared child that I have, and she was asking questions, and I told her that really I was a nerd as far as academics, because I took the 8 o'clock classes. I sat at the front of the classroom, but my high school was very competitive academically, and it's kind of the people I competed with academically in high school, that same thing kind of started happening when I got to Catawba. I decided to be an education major, and that was a very competitive, the education program here at Catawba is excellent. It was a very competitive program, and even within that department, we were competitive, but I think probably I would put student before athlete being here at Catawba. So,
You spent 26 years as an educator, somewhat recently retired,
transitioning.
I get the sense, though, that you've been an educator all your life. Am I wrong in that?
So the pool I mentioned that where the lifeguards taught us volleyball, I wanted to be a lifeguard at that pool. And I didn't get that gig, but instead I became a lifeguard at the Boys and Girls Club in High Point, and I think that probably from that moment on, I probably somewhere knew I was going to be an educator, but I changed my major about 3 times, but came back to education.
What was the other two?
One was a political science, and I cannot remember that professor's name, but he tried to get me into political science and go to law school. And then I loved Dr. Janice Fuller, and she was a lit teacher here, and I was thinking about doing English lit, but then Dr. Cassius in the end won me over to education.
And you're traveling now a whole lot from what I understand.
I have 2 states left in the United States.
What 2 are left?
Washington and Oregon.
And they're right next to each other.
Yes.
Look
That
at
way.
me, right?
Oh yeah, 3 really. North Dakota, haven't been through there
Well,
yet.
if you look at a map, Hawaii and Alaska are pretty easy because they're side by side. Right,
no.
I mean, down to the key to the left, they
No,
always put
but
those 2 together.
My last job as an educator was taken on a failing school in Huntsville, Alabama, and our team turned that school around. So my first trip was to Alaska to decompress from that job.
Knocked that one out pretty easy.
Yeah.
Who would you like to thank tonight?
First of all, the people that are here with me, my forever fans, my mom and dad. All right, Todd. My husband, Jim, my 3 children. One's here, and I think the other 2 are probably watching it live stream. And then my college roommate, Sherry Flynn Brents. And then I want to thank Jeff Childress. He did an excellent job communicating with us and preparing us, all the other Hall of Fame people tonight. And then I guess I was asking some of the other Hall of Fame people, is it the Chiefs Club? How do we become Hall of Fame? Because I guess I would like to thank those people for just going back and looking at what we did here and giving us those accolades. It's nice to come back.
Hall of Famer's got a pretty good title, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And that's McArthur Jobe, everybody.
The all-star of the media backdrop out in the lobby, Devonte Peterson.
Show us that smile. Show everybody the smile. Come on.
I've been smiling all day, man. Come on.
You had 2 childhood loves in terms of sports. You had football and basketball. What did you like about both?
Tripp, you ask the best questions in the world.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're
You ought to
good.
see the next 5 coming after this.
I bet. Basketball, well, you know, I'm from North Carolina, born and raised. And I'm from a little small town called Clinton. Mascot, dark horses. Be tough, be a horse. And the city I'm from, you had to do something, you know. So football was what everybody in the community was doing. So you had to do football. Now after football season, you either play a sport or you get a job. I didn't want to get a job. So everybody played basketball. And it's funny you say, you ask good questions. You must have talked with my grandma. And so it came time, you know, after, you know, high school, it's time to graduate. What you going to do? My grandma said, you're going to play basketball. My mama, you're going to play football. Yeah, you heard that, right? Football it was.
So that was truly the deciding factor.
Absolutely, you hear them.
I did, but you get to that moment of impact and you're like, I really do like this. It's indoors, it's 72 degrees. It's outdoors, the conditions always change. Sometimes that plays a factor. That's why I asked.
There was letters, you know, coming to the house for basketball, different junior colleges, you know, because junior college, that's where you develop players. And then, you know, also my high school coach is here, Bob Lewis, he's right there. And, you know, he would tell me, hey, East Carolina wants you. This person is going to UNC Chapel Hill. This person is going to NC State. And, you know, I'm thinking to myself, like, I think I got to go to work. I'm like, hey, I really don't know what to do. So my mind was like in a whirlwind. And then finally, my mom dropped me off at a university. And guess what? I went to college.
How did Catawba win? You obviously were a pretty good prospect in somebody's mind. How is it that you landed in Salisbury?
You ask good questions. There was a persistent coach. His name was Jamie Snyder. Even the year after I graduated from Clinton High, he came back looking for me. And he was like, look, I need that guy. I need somebody from that program. Little did he know I went to Fayetteville State first. So I'm at Fayetteville State University. I'm just a regular student, but the football coach and AD knew who I was, so they wanted me to play next year. So it was sort of red shirt deal. And push came to shove, and they went 1-13. I had to get out of there. And luckily, a recruiter they had came and scooped me up. He came and picked me up off campus and drove me to Salisbury. And I get to this place. I see the big church. I see people on the grass. I see kegs outside and trash cans.
Wow, it's good to see a Hall of Famer, everybody.
But that's
family
not the bad
environment.
stuff. I didn't even tell you the bad stuff yet. So, but also one thing that I did see, the guys had rings. I said, yo, you guys have rings. They was like, yeah, we win around here. I was like, that's what that is? Yeah, that's what I smell. The next thing you know, I got here and they were right. Everybody wins. When I got here, women's soccer had a lady named Katie Kaboom. I think she's a Hall of Famer. They also, men's soccer had this guy named DeHorsey. He might have ran a 4.1 in the 40. He was faster than everybody. And basketball, they had this guy named Art Wade and Marvin Moore and Tony. Like on fast breaks, man, these guys were taking off in the air. And then again, they had this, on the women's basketball team, they had a girl named Kia Bryce who led in points, rebounds, and assists, and truly amazing. I was like, yo, we all in the cafeteria together eating. I was like, there's something I got to do so I can at least be relevant in this cafeteria.
Well, you became relevant in that cafeteria because in '99 you got the South Atlantic Conference Defensive Player of the Year. What was it about your preparation that got you to that point of receiving that award?
Oh, man. It was a lot of pressure. I mean, you had guys before me that was all conference and all SAC. You know, I mean, they was conference MVP. You had Maurice Miller, you had Michael Robinson. He's right there. And every week you would hear him, like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? He would always come back every week, what are you going to do? And I'm like, yo, man, I can't let this guy down. If I let him down, then, you know, he's probably going to beat me up in the door or something. I was like, look, I got to keep this legacy going. If I'm playing behind two MVPs, then I at least got to give it a shot to be one of them.
So fear of failure was a motivator?
Absolutely.
Scotland and Germany after playing here. Tell us about your international experience.
Oh, man, you ask good questions. Well, Scotland was phenomenal. In Scotland, we stayed at the Queen Central Hotel, which had a train station underneath that went everywhere in Scotland. And in Germany was special. In Germany, they treated us as if we were entertainers. Like we were singers and, you know, producers and everything was good. Every place we went in Germany, we were treated like we were in the NFL or we were rock and roll singers. They treated us well everywhere we went, and that was the first place where I seen a Mercedes transfer truck.
High dollar.
Yeah, and I actually wanted one, right? Yeah.
What do you drive now?
Oh, I got an Infinity, but it's used.
Once owned by a German, though, so it's close, right? Just making that up.
Close.
You also played in the CFL as well.
Absolutely. I played in Hamilton, Ontario with the Hamilton Ticats. It was a phenomenal experience. One game that I remember playing against Toronto. And Toronto has been destroying us for years. And one game we finally win, okay? We win and we have a party at the house, and the running back name was Avery Johnson. I'll never forget him. Avery Johnson also played with the Vikings. And he came to the house, he said, man, that is by far the worst whipping I ever had in my life. And it felt good. I was like, yo, I remember watching you play, and I remember tackling you a bunch, man. Hey, get you something to eat.
It's the least I could do. You played under a certain set of rules for so many years. Was the CFL hard to adjust to?
Absolutely. The fields was longer, and you had 3 downs. And then you also had this receiver that was in motion that gets like a running start till he gets to the line, and the quarterback is like in a 9-step drop. So by the time you get to him, the ball is airborne. You just got to get lucky to sack. And plus, you were a yard off the line of scrimmage. So you had to be super quick and very elusive and lucky at the same time.
I'm hoping this question doesn't bring down the room. How did you know it was time to hang it up?
That's a good question. Again, well, it's funny you say that. The last team I played for was this public service league, and I played for the Charlotte Cobras. And
one guy wearing a T-shirt for the Cobras, right?
And I'm playing for the team, and I train with 4 guys. I got like 2 of them in here now. And I'm out there playing. We're warming up. You know, everything's good. And like the second series, I tore my Achilles. After I tear my Achilles, I get back to the sideline. You know, I'm talking with some of the coaches, talking with the doc. And then one coach comes up to me and said, Devonte, it's time to hang it up. He said, Devonte, you're 43. And I was like, you're right.
I thought you were going to say like 38, 37, right?
This is the truth. I cannot make this up.
No, nobody could, yeah.
No.
You're now working, you and I talked on the phone last week, you're now working as the juvenile justice officer in Mecklenburg County. What is it about football and being part of a team that allows you to mentor these kids who are out there just struggling every day?
Well, the good thing is there's people I work with that told everybody what I'd done before I got there. So most of the kids, you know, ask questions, hey, where you played at, what you did, you know, and I try not to reveal my personal life, but they already know, you know. So I tell them, I say, hey, listen, I'm from Dogwood Circle, Sansom Home Projects, okay? You can make it as far as you want to go. Just don't take no for an answer. When you're tired, keep going. When you're tired of doing that, keep going some more. When you're tired of pushing, push back a little more. And at the end, you're going to grow. Even grass grows.
Who would you like to thank tonight? Do I need to buckle in for a while? Kick back?
Nah, but you'll stand up with me? Because there's a lot of people, man. You gotta stand up for this. All right, first, man, where did I start it? Oh, first I got to thank my moms, my grandma, and the whole Peterson clan for coming out. And also, thank you for dropping me off. Also, I got to thank my childhood best friend since the 3rd grade, Isaac Green. He also has on pink for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I also got to thank Bob Lewis, coach of the Clinton Dark Horses. Thank you. You helped me get here. I also got to thank Michael Robinson, Big Huss, because you created a slogan that made Catawba great, that made football amazing, that made winning a chore. Also, I want to thank everybody that was at Catawba from 1998 to 2001.
But don't name them individually. Okay?
Yeah, that's going to take all day. And also, I want to thank all the people that couldn't make it because of like sickness or illness that was part of the path, or some of the people that I forgot because I got concussions. But everybody at Catawba, Coach Bennett. Also, I want to send shouts out to the Bennett family, and I miss Mama Bennett Hail to the Chiefs.
Devonte Peterson.
And with that, we invite Craig Turnbull to head up to the podium to close us out for the night. Thank you.
I strongly wish Devonte wasn't there. It's hard to follow that. So if he could have gone earlier in the program, that would have been fantastic. Again, just thank you to everybody. What a wonderful crowd has been tonight. Tripp, thank you very much. Everybody, if you'd please join me. I'd certainly also be remiss if I didn't thank Jeff Childress, Pam Barber, who's sitting up top with Marion and Victoria, Buddy Ferguson, who put in a lot of time today. So again, thank you all very much, because this event wouldn't have happened without y'all. Just congratulations to all newly inducted Hall of Fame members. Accomplishments, tremendous. The neat thing about it, I think I heard family and team every time somebody spoke. So I hope that you get a chance later today, and I'll be brief today, so you can enjoy your family and your teammates as well. But certainly a great crowd. The former inductees who've joined us tonight, also special thanks to you for getting back into town and showing your support. So everyone, please be safe in your travels. Enjoy your weekends. And lastly, probably just a good, strong Roll Tribe. See ya. Thank you.